English translation, 85th contact, Thursday, 15th September, 1977, 16:11 hours.
It is nice that I see you two together again.
It has not been long since we have been here together.
For our friend, this may nevertheless be a very long time.
Which you are right about, but what is going on now? Did you find anything out about this rather strange thing about Mr. Glanzmann?
It has caused me a lot of trouble. I would also like to ask you not to make any such attempts in the future until you have informed my daughter, Quetzal, or me. Your attempts were very dangerous and could very easily have meant the premature end of your life. You owe the fact that you are still alive only to the fact that you reacted very quickly and defeated senselessness by your will before it came to full effect. If you had lost your consciousness in deeper forms, and if it had not been of a superficial nature, you would have lost the battle due to lack of time. So that, however, is how you actually stood on the knife edge and were still able to act in the decisive fraction of a second. But it was only a matter of tiny fractions of a second. A further benefit for you was that you set wrong coordinates, which made a direct attack on you impossible. So you were hit only on a disoriented basis with a back connection of the insane energy to the memory holder, in the case, thus Mr. Glanzmann. But if you had not protected yourself and betrayed your position, you would have been hopelessly lost.
It could not have been that bad, could it?
It was even worse because you cannot eliminate concentrative energy completely by any means. You are only able to displace it for a short time, but nothing more. This in the event your position would have been known, because then this unbreakable power would take you under fire with full verve and fullest strength.
But now, I still do not know how this power or energy fits this man, because I cannot imagine that he can create something so monstrous.
Certainly, he cannot do that either, not even in the smallest forms. His subconscious is responsible for this. This is because it impulsively registered a danger from somewhere and acted accordingly. Through the process of breaking off contact, Mr. Glanzmann placed himself in an irreparable state of consciousness, which means that he is no longer able to exercise any control over his subconscious in matters of contact. So he, contrary to our earlier assumption, is absolutely unclear about the fact that contact with the other level is completely broken off and does not return. Due to the irreparable state he now feels himself further in the contact area, therefore he passes on false impulses through his consciousness to his subconscious, which in turn puts false impulses of this kind into his consciousness. If he is no longer able to recognize the truth, consciously I mean the subconscious is also fed with the same false data, thus it also works wrongly in this direction. This means that his subconscious can only work in this form with regard towards these concerns. Therefore, this forms an auditory imagination, which is stored twice, consciously and subconsciously. But this again leads to the subconscious defending itself against everything that does not correspond to its stored goods. For the subconscious, in this moment, only the fact is what is input as food via the consciousness, even if this food is poisoned and wrong. For these reasons, the subconscious reacted in an extremely vicious form when it became aware of a danger from somewhere, namely that everything concerning the contacts of Mr. Glanzmann was only untruthful, and that the contacts to the other sphere were only of a purely imaginary nature. And it is precisely here that a factor begins to play a role, by which those powers were called into mobilization, which attacked you so dangerously that you got into bad trouble. For the man, his subconscious acted absolutely independently and unconsciously in a defensive form which he could not understand. In himself, and thus also in his subconscious as well as in his conscious, he is still deeply connected with religious concerns, which became the decisive factor for the malicious action of the subconscious. When registering the danger that it was known somewhere that contact with the other level was irretrievably interrupted, it regarded this statement as falsehood and acted very quickly. In a short time, it mobilized energies of defense to protect the illusionary things that exist within him, the energy nearest to it being the one which most strongly reveals its presence, the energies of religious faith, for which Mr. Glanzman himself is responsible, though he may deny this externally. But precisely these forces, those of religious belief, are the most powerful that exist on the earth, for they have arisen and exist in false and billion-fold subconscious thought energies of religious believers on the earth. These forces represent a tremendous agglomeration, a gigantic concentrative form, powers that enclose your world like a closed dome and often do evil damage. Connected with them are also tremendous concentrative forms of fluidal powers, which were also emitted by billions of faith-dependent Earth humans and are still being emitted. It is these energies, now united in concentrative form and consequently also interacting, which were called into mobilization by the subconscious of Mr. Glanzman and enclosed him as an impenetrable, protective vibrational and energy armor, which you recklessly tried to break through, which would inevitably have brought you premature death if you had not secured your position through doubly false coordinates.
Aha, now I understand a lot more. In Einsiedeln, in the monastery, I was already caught by a hair's breadth about a year ago. Then it must be those powers.
Certainly, and they are life-threatening for you, which is why you should avoid concentrative sites of such energies.
I have often suggested that to you.
I know.
Then you should also try to follow this advice. You cannot fight these belief energies and belief fluids, fluidal energies, in such a manner that you could render them ineffective. They are too strong and powerful even for us.
I know that now. I just do not understand that the religions constantly talk about these energies as the forces of darkness, because so much negative is evoked by them, while just and precisely through these religions themselves, these forces of darkness are generated.
They are not the religions.
I know they are in truth the believers and their crazy belief.
Of course. Unfortunately, they cannot be helped with all the truth when it is explained to them that through their belief and their belief fluidal energies, they themselves generate those powers, which they then call the powers of darkness, or the mights of darkness.
That may be the reason. You are certainly right. But now please tell me what I should do further in relation to this matter.
I can only give you one piece of advice. Beware of not reaching out to Mr. Glanzman about these things yourself, or through third parties during the next 3 weeks. Do not give him any explanations in this regard, and never mention to him during the time mentioned the fact that his contact with the other level has been hopelessly interrupted and broken off. See also that no remarks are made to him by third parties. It is imperative that all these concerns remain a secret on your part, and the informed members of the group for the next 3 weeks. Only then will the danger be averted by our interventions. For if thoughtless remarks are made to the man, then the danger rises to boundlessness that through his subconscious your position of consciousness is found, and the locality is attacked, which means that you would draw the full damage on you and would certainly not master it, whereby our help could come too late if we are then able to help at all.
From my side, I can guarantee silence, but for some group members I cannot, because before they can do that, they have to learn a lot.
I know that this is the case with some of them, but it should be possible to set it up anyway. I appeal to the common sense of those and hope for their understanding.
We shall see.
There simply must be no mistake in this regard.
All right, Ptah, I will talk to them about it. But now we have talked about it enough. I also have another question. When exactly should the operation of our great value begin?
On Thursday, the 27th of October of this year, starting with Jacobus.
Good. Have you already calculated any more times?
Sure, I can give you 2 more dates, namely for Dorrit and Maria W. Dorrit needs Maria W. is in the calculation at A.
Thank you, girl, so I can complete the list until the reports are printed and update these 2 names. But one thing still amazes me, the different times of the night. Why are these in gradations of 3?
I can answer this question by saying that the times for the individual group members are calculated according to the best possible measure of the maximum swinging wave attainment, the maximum fluidal attainment, and the cosmic swinging wave, as well as some other very important factors.
Does this mean that other times would not be good for the individual group members, or simply not effective to the extent required?
Certainly, this factor has to be taken into account. For example, my daughter had to postpone the peak performance time with Margaret because Margaret could not keep the calculated time. This means that she will need several weeks longer to concentrate her quantum of fluid swinging waves. Instead of the 3rd of February 1978, her time cycle will change about 6 weeks later, which is not very important because Quetzal will develop a tuned amplifier for this extreme case, which transforms oscillations to normal strength from March 1978. However, this should be regarded as an exception with regard to her activity, which is why all others want to follow the calculated times. Losses due to vacation and indispensability, etc., should be avoided because if the course of the calculated times is disturbed, this is very disadvantageous for the individual. Only in the case of serious illnesses should absenteeism occur. It is probably possible to make up for lost time within the framework of the calculated time total, but such catch-up work regularly only has to take place in the second part of the morning hour, with the time to be made up generally doubling, tripling, and, in extreme cases, even quadrupling or quintupling from the normal time calculation.
So that is how it is.
Of course, and it is not changeable for the time being because we cannot simply circumvent the cosmic laws either, especially in these matters. But now I would like to give you some advice. Through my daughter, I learned that when you approached Mr. Glanzman, you observed a violet aura color on him, which should have warned you. You really should pay more attention to these matters.
I know. You may want to say that I know that the violet color is one of the lowest developmental levels, so I should have paid attention to it.
Yes, that is so. You know that the violet color is indeed a very low level of evolution, and that only faith in something wrong can cause this aura-based coloring. You also know that various false teachings claim that this color protects against negative force fields, swinging waves, and other influences of negative form. You know very well how erroneous this is, and that you have already had several bad experiences with regard to various violet rays, for example, in the ultraviolet range, etc.
Yes, I know, but I had to try it anyway, but not because I suddenly became so stupid that I would consider the violet radiation and the violet light as a positive factor. I remember the damage I suffered very well, which is why I do not rely on any claims that these violet rays, etc., are positive. I do not rely on the Great White Brotherhood and its variations, like Bridge to Freedom and the I Am, nor on other false doctrines. You should know that.
I had no thoughts in that direction. But now, my friend, time is pressing. I must go. Live in peace, be careful, and pay my thanks to all our loved ones.
So I also say goodbye to you and very loving greetings to all. Also pay tribute also to all my feelings of solidarity with them, and that I think of them very often, and also to all those members who still go off in treacherous thoughts, speech, actions, and slander, and want to give themselves the appearance of innocence, although they cheat, exploit, lie, and deceive. May the truth one day be gracious to them when they become aware of it and fully recognize it.
I will be gladly to do so, of course. They will all be very happy, and thank you very much. Yes, Ptah, girl, one more quick question. I have a little problem. In itself, I have already solved it, from my point of view, and according to how I see the matter. To be precise, it is about the fact that can I talk to you about it for a moment and hear what you have to say?
Certainly it seems to me to be of great significance and importance.
I agree with my father's opinion.
Present your request.
Thank you. But I do not want those concerns to be reflected in the report later.
Sure, it goes without saying.
Well then?
The further conversation, purely private matter, lasts 20 minutes.
For my part, I feel that I know that you are acting in the knowledge of your responsibility and duty towards yourself and the other side when you have decided to do so. In true form, and in the knowledge of the fulfillment of duty and responsibility, you are able to make a decision that is not easy even for you, which I must openly acknowledge to you. Explain, therefore, your advice to the other side, which you thereby pave many paths for.
And what do you think, girl?
I can only affirm my father's advice.
Thank you very much for your dear advice, and for the time and effort you have taken upon yourselves. Thank you very much, and goodbye now.